At the end of tonight, we will be halfway through this season of Racecraft Rallycross, and the championships could not be closer. From the up-and-coming drivers of RX2 to the experienced pros of RX1, we have seen some of the best racing in the series history this season, and we are ready for more as we invade one of the newest rallycross circuits on iRacing at Circuit de Barcelona, Catalonia. Welcome to round 5 of Racecraft Rallycross. I'm your host, Joshua Lee. Joining me in the booth tonight is Dane Baird. And Dane, so far this season, we have seen some amazing action. But looking at the schedule with a change on it as well, Hell Lonkabanen is gone. Now we're going to be going to Lucas Oil Raceway, otherwise known as the Indianapolis Raceway Park, for the 7th round of the championship. But Barcelona this week, off the heels of what was 2 amazing feature races at Iowa.
Yeah, absolutely. And that change, Lucas Oil, I don't think any of the drivers are really going to complain about that. Hell, not being one of the most popular circuits on the service, just because of a lot of reasons that there are drivers that don't enjoy that circuit. It's great for hot lapping, but for racing, it's just not ideal. Lucas Oil, circuit that's been on iRacing Rallycross for a lot longer than Hell has been, so a good change there in my opinion at least. But moving on to Barcelona. Tonight, probably one of the most, now that Hell's gone, probably the most unique circuit on the entire IRX field on this Racecraft Rallycross schedule as well. World Rallycross circuit in the real world, so a very well-known circuit for Rallycross fans if they're used to watching real Rallycross. This is a very, very technical circuit.
And this circuit, of course, is always provided exciting racing. We saw it in the World Championship and the All-Star Invitational before the last season of the World Championship, and this track, and also a wild card because it is one of the newest ones, and not a lot of experience for a lot of the, especially the RX2 drivers, but even the RX1 guys as well, not a ton of experience in these machines at this track. So we'll see how those drivers do as RX2 field on the track for qualifying. We take a look at the point standings currently as they stand for RX2, and just taking a look currently at these point standings, Dane, Zach Knowles able to get a 2-point lead over Carson McKenna, but that is not a ton to play with. Tyler Campbell with 57 points behind your current leader in Zach Knowles, and those 3 are pulling away from the rest. Paul Mikolajczyk at 31 sits in 4th, and then a tie for 5th and a tie for 7th at 30 and 27 points respectively. The top 3 are in a league of their own right now after Iowa.
Yeah, and one thing to notice is that a good few of the drivers in both RX2 and RX1 don't have to worry about the off-road championship anymore, because that's obviously over now. But yeah, they'll be able to put a little bit more focus into the series maybe. So we'll see how that affects things as well. But still so close, especially those top 3 only separated by 7 points there.
7 points separating those top 3, and we'll see who's going to be able to get the best of each other tonight. Most notably, looking down the timing tower right now, I do not see a Zach Knowles in the session, so that's going to blow this championship wide open. Of course, these drivers get 2 drop weeks, but you don't want to have to use one, especially as we're only going into halfway through with this season after this round here from virtual Barcelona Speedway off the heels of the race at Iowa. Race analysis for RX2 is just about as follows. We'll have 3 5-lap heats, and I believe we might have those heats dropping down to maybe 2 by the amount of drivers we have qualified here. So we'll see if we get any changes into the race analysis. But other than that, we'll have the LCQs, and we'll have a 12 competitor feature race. 10 laps will be in that feature race. It'll be the exact same format for RX1. However, compared to the RX1 guys, these RX2 drivers with an 8x incident limit and a fixed setup versus the 6x incident limit and an open setup the RX1 guys will have. But the points they'll earn tonight, Dane, are pretty substantial. It all starts in qualifying with 6 points available to whoever's going to qualify on the pole for heat race number 1, but then more points through the heat, more points through the feature, a lot of opportunity for missed points as well.
Yep, and qualifying is also extremely important because obviously you'll start well in the heat, but then the better you do in qualifying, the earlier you'll go in your heat races, and the better your starting position will be relative to the same finishing position in the feature grid. So if you qualify first, you'll go into heat number 1, you'll start pole position there. But if you then do well in the heat race, say you win the heat race as well, you'll be on overall pole position for the feature. Whereas if you win heat 2, you'll only start second. So it's a massive advantage to get higher up in qualifying if you can.
And I should say no Zach Knowles because he has moved up into RX1. Still a new change, still getting used to it here on Racecraft Rallycross. But we're ready to begin tonight's action, and we are getting ready for heat race number 1. Now, this will have 4 drivers advancing into the feature instead of the normal 2. But Carson McKenna was the best in hot laps. He'll start on the pole. Sean Winkler in second. Andrew Howell, Sawyer Gara, Ian Fisher, Sim Van Weerld on the top 6. And back from there to round out your starting grid, Hector Sierra, Armin Bruce, and Robert Kirtley. 9 drivers ready to take the green flag here from virtual Barcelona, and they'll all line up on one of the back straights on Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya, of course known as a circuit through MotoGP, known in Formula 1, and of course now known for Rallycross, as well as all the other open-wheeled and GT series that end up racing here, Dane.
Yeah, and it's a bit of an odd starting position. There's barriers right up against the apex of what is the first corner of the race, but you actually end up around about halfway through the circuit. You're going to end up just after the first of the dirt section on the track and go straight into the second one, just over the jump. Very narrow start of the track. So you can see here, nice and wide, they have loads of space, but that very quickly runs out.
Well, here we go, ready for heat race number 1 of the evening. It will be Carson McKenna on the pole position. Winkler, Howell, Gara, and Fisher back from there to round out the top 5. Seems like we're waiting on Robert Kirtley, but that timer is going to run out. 5 laps on the docket for these drivers, as seems like those revs will begin to build here shortly and will be underway. Long grid here. It seems like a 2-minute grid, and it seems like Robert Kirtley with a connection dropped due to incoming packet loss, so he will not take the green flag here in heat 1. But other than that, we are ready to go racing as the lights will go green, and we are underway for heat race number 1. And someone sleeping in the back, that was Armin Brusso, who will not get the start that he needed, but Carson McKenna already out to an early lead. Sean Winkler assumes second place. Andrew Howell, Sawyer Gara going to go side by side, as up the inside goes Sim Van Weerld as Gara goes wide. Loses the spot to Sierra and Fisher as well. Gara down to 7th as McKenna leads the way. Who's going to joker first time by? Is anybody going to go for it? No, they will not, as they go under the sign. Your current race leader, Carson McKenna.
It's a good thing no one did go for the Joker lap, Josh, because remember, they can't take the Joker lap before they pass the start finish, and the start finish is in the wrong place. If you watch World Rallycross Championship, the FIA World Rallycross Championship, the start finish line is just about after this hairpin here. This is where it usually is, but on iRacing, it's a little bit further around the lap. So it's a good thing no one did, because it's a very easy mistake to make.
McKenna still with a pretty dominant lead, all things considered, at the front, waiting to see if anybody jokers this first eligible lap by. And McKenna does not. Does Winkler? No. Andrew Howell will from 3rd. He'll be the first taker into the joker. Who else is going to join him? Is that Sim Van Weerld? Yes, it is. Who else behind there? Hector Sierra Jr. also joins. So 3 drivers into the joker, and the first driver to joker, Andrew Howell, comes out in 3rd. As you can see, the leader, Carson McKenna, going through the second dirt section now, about 9/10 separating himself and Sean Winkler in P2. They'll go to halfway through this heat race this time by. And when is McKenna going to go for that joker? We've discussed the joker lane strategy in RX2 a lot, Dane, and I think we've hit the nail on the head now. It seems like they take it when it's the most convenient for them, not really thinking about much of a joker lap strategy.
Yeah, absolutely, and that often is one of the best ways you can take it, as McKenna goes in as followed by Winkler. So all of your top 3 drivers, there's Howell, but this is the big part about this joker. Look at the extra speed that you're going to carry through that first corner, and you might be able to make up a position, but Howell's played that to perfection there. Obviously had a very good last lap, and he's moved up into 2nd place.
Carson McKenna still holds the lead, but now you can see that gap between Howell and McKenna starting to fall as they go through this very, very difficult asphalt corner. Dane, what would be the final corner if the start-finish line was right before this dirt section here, but it's a very difficult asphalt corner to get right because you have to hit the handbrake and you got to make sure you're not sliding too much, or else they're going to scrub off a ton of momentum and speed that is useful for that run into the dirt.
And one important thing about the joker is because you get such a massive run down that second straight, or the first straight of the circuit, It's definitely beneficial to take it any time but on the last lap. You do not want to be taking it and coming across the finish line to end the race, because you lose all of that advantage that everyone else would have gained. And we saw that the first time that we ever saw Barcelona in a competitive race in RX1 back in the first season. I don't even think we had RX World Championship qualifiers or World Championship race there yet. And Bo Albert figured that out and used it to his advantage massively. Ended up passing the entire field because everyone else waited to the last lap.
Wonder if we'll see any of that happening in RX1, especially with this track now being a part of the World Championship last year. Also was a part of the All-Star Invitational and the All-Star Series that went along with the World Championship. And we've had it plenty of times here in Racecraft Rallycross as well. But white flag out for heat race number 1. Carson McKenna leads the way. Remember, only 2 heat races for RX2 tonight. And right now, Carson McKenna and Andrew Howell in the top 2. They are in the transfer spots, as well as 3rd place Sean Winkler, and currently 4th place holding that last transfer spot is Racecraft's own Ian Fisher, who sits 4th. Sim Van Weerle will be the first driver heading into the LCQ, but through the final dirt corner, to the final asphalt corner here at Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. Win in heat race number 1 for Carson McKenna. A great run for the 11, but the 666, the 17, and the 51 will be joining him in the feature race tonight for RX2. 1 heat race over and done. We take half the field to the feature, and Van Weerle, Sierra Jr., Brusso, and Gara are going to have to fight out of the LCQs.
And across the line, the last of the drivers go. And just watching the drivers make their way around this circuit, that was a pretty clean race. I mean, it's very often that we'll see big pileups and things on the first lap, especially through that section. You can see just how much it tightens up off of the start of the race, but only a couple little bits of contact here and there, but everyone making it through fairly cleanly. So we'll see how the race grid for heat number 2 looks, and Tyler Campbell's got the pole.
So Campbell on the pole, 2nd fastest in qualifying. Russell Peterson, Thomas Grady, you mentioned earlier, Dane, those off-road World Championship competitors, Thomas Grady being one of them. We'll see if he improves in time with the Rallycross machines. Trevor Teal to his outside, competing in the All-Star Series of the Off-Road World Championship. Noah Hanna and Bradley Holst going to round out your top 6 and rounding out your field for heat number 2, excuse me. Roman Tenessen, Dylan Baldwin, and Matthew Lindy. We get ready to go racing. We are underway for heat race number 2. The dive into the first corner, and already contact through the middle. It's that Legion Simsport entry of Thomas Grady getting aggressive, but it will work. He'll go up into P2 as everybody is a scrappy back from there, as pushing up, trying to get further up. It looked to be Trevor Teal, but out of the dirt section for the first time. Noel Hanna holds the transfer. Everybody goes through. One driver into the Joker, and that's a mistake there, Dane.
Yeah, it is indeed, and it's Baldwin who's gone into the Joker, and unfortunately that is a huge error. He's going to get a penalty for that, and probably going to end up a little bit further back in the field. And making their way through this second of the dirt sections now, so incredibly tight, because the cars are essentially on slick tires as well in the dirt, it must be noted. They don't have dirt tires like your pro trucks do. They are on slicks with the slightest grooves you've ever seen. So trying to make their way through is all big contact in the back.
Noel Hanna getting turned around. Same thing with Russell Peterson. That's 2 drivers taken out, and now the timing updates into
what I want to call turn 1, but it isn't. Turn 1 into the second dirt section. A move up the inside being made now, side by side, up and over the blue curb. Are they going to avoid the walls they have? And unfortunately for Teal, that move on the inside didn't quite work out.
Let's see what happened on that incident with Noel Hanna. As they were coming out of this asphalt section, it looks like, contact with Teal sent him right into the tires. And Russell Peterson, with nowhere to go, ends up making more contact. And it's a very simple accordion effect incident there, Dane. Very common in Rallycross, and very easy to make that mistake when everybody's running so close together.
Yep, absolutely. And especially with these cars being so light on the rear, a little bit of a touch can send these cars turned around as very easily, just as we've seen here, and somehow the car on the inside has avoided that one, as, or maybe a slowdown, trying to get out the way, steering damage or something, as the cars make contact again in that dirt section. Baldwin not having a great time out there.
But at the front with 2 to go, Tyler Campbell's been able to pull away everybody except for Bradley Hulse completing their Joker laps. So Campbell, Grady, Teal, and for the moment, Dylan Baldwin. We'll see if that's going to stay. He did complete his legal Joker lap, but wondering if he still has a time penalty added onto that. With this being a European-style sort of a long Joker, it's not a shortcut Joker like it is in the United States. Do we think he has a time penalty, Dane? He technically didn't gain any time. He just took the Joker 1 lap too early.
I think he's still going to get a penalty for that, to be honest with you. But it is a bit of a unique situation because I don't think the other long lap circuits, I'm thinking towards Charlotte is a long lap circuit, Brands Hatch is a long lap circuit, all of those you start pretty much at the start finish and you can't take the Joker physically, take the Joker before you reach it. I'm trying to think of the other ones. Hell as well, you start on the start finish line, so it's a bit of an odd one. But I do think taking that Joker lap early is going to give you a penalty, but we'll have to wait and see. It all depends on how iRacing system manages that. We're coming around the final couple of corners now, and it's a pretty dominant performance, it's fair to say.
Tyler Campbell will grab the win, and Dylan Baldwin has fallen out of the transfer spots for the moment as Campbell wins. Grady will get second with a drift across the line. Trevor Teal ends up third. Battle for the transfer. You can see Russell Peterson with a big jump there off of the dirt, and Dylan Baldwin behind will not catch him. So Russell Peterson ends up fourth. Will Dylan Baldwin keep P5 is the big question. We'll find out here in just a moment as we take a look at your full results here for heat race number 2. And I believe, yes, he did get a time penalty there. The gap growing to now 29.347. Looked to be either a 15-second penalty, maybe a 10-second penalty, something along those lines. But either way, penalty given for Dylan Baldwin. He will be 7th scored out of that race. And we're getting ready now for the consolation. And very quickly looking at the grid, Sim Van Weerld, Matthew Lindy, Hector Sierra, Bradley Hulse, Armin Brusso, Dylan Baldwin, and more on the grid as we are already ready to go racing. And they dive into turn number 1. Lots of contact there between these RX2 drivers as Matthew Lindy will get the lead at the front and trying to hold on as a big dive into the inside. That's Hector Sierra Jr. making contact with Van Weerld, who makes contact with the race leader, and track almost gets blocked there as it was 2 simultaneously spinning Subarus.
Yeah, that was almost really bad for the entire field there as they're 3 wide to the final corner there. And somehow they've all sort of made it through in one piece. A couple cars going a bit wide to avoid them. Usually that would have been fantastic. Take the Joker, go around them, brilliant. But they can't take the Joker on the first time past it. Remember, they weren't on lap 1 yet. So through the first section, they will go extremely tight. And there's a car around in the background as well, the Fiesta.
I believe that is the Fiesta of Armin Brusso. Yes, it is. That gold-colored 911 ends up around in the grass. And oh, Roman Tenessen also around. He was scored as your race leader, I believe, after a tow back into the pit lane. And now, timing updates, we do see that Sim Van Weerld is scored as your race leader. Remember, we took 4 from each of the heats, and we still have to make up a 12-car grid for the feature. So we will take 4 from this LCQ. And right now, Lindy and Baldwin in a battle for second, as last time by Matthew Lindy. Teammate to Baldwin took the Joker, along with Baldwin and Hannah. Second, third, and fourth, all Jokers completed.
And Lindy's got to have a bit of a job to do here, a little bit wide into the tarmac transition there, and it's so difficult. You can see all the smoke being lifted up by the guys. It's so difficult to get out of that corner because you want to get on the power as early as possible, and you also end up sideways coming onto the tarmac. On tarmac, you want to be as straight as possible because when you're going sideways, obviously, you're not going forward. So it's a very difficult corner to get the exit of right. And of course, heavy braking into a slow corner on dirt isn't easy either.
3 laps to go in the LCQ, and at this point, it doesn't seem like there's much of a battle for the transfers. Bradley Hulse is about 3.1 seconds back from Noel Hanna at the moment, and everybody in the top 4 has taken their Joker, which normally, Dane, we wouldn't talk much about. It wouldn't be that huge of a deal because everybody behind will still be able to get a Joker lap advantage, but there's no advantage to the Joker here with it being a long way around instead of the short way. So top four sitting comfortable right now. As long as they don't make any major mistakes, they will not have anybody knocking on their door.
Yep, absolutely, and it's a perfect position for them to be in as well. They just got to do some laps. And having said that, this is probably, if there's one circuit on the calendar where it's almost impossible not to make some kind of mistake throughout a race stint, it's this one, because it is not used a whole lot. The drivers won't be as familiar with it. It's fairly new, and it's just so difficult. So drivers making their way around now, they still have to be extremely careful.
Careful indeed, as we see a battle now for the race lead, as Van Weerld has been caught by Matthew Lindy. How is he going to try and get around? And will he try and get around? Remember, both of them are clean into the feature race with all their Joker laps completed. They work their way through the sweeping downhill corner and back into the dirt they go. Does Lindy go for a move here? Two Subarus sparring on the last lap of the LCQ. Through the asphalt hairpin, both of them drifting out wide, a little bit more so from Matthew Lindy. He loses a little bit of time back through the dirt, and Sim Van Weerld goes wide. Is he going to be able to get it back to the inside? He doesn't lose a ton of time. Does he lose much over the jump? No, he does not. And through the final couple of corners, Sim Van Weerld will go to victory lane in the LCQ. Matthew Lindy gets second. Dylan Baldwin, Noel Hanna gonna round out the four drivers that are advancing into the feature off of our one and only LCQ tonight.
Yep, and just playing their Joker strategy well, staying out of too much trouble. As a couple of drivers ending up getting turned around in that race as well. It could have been a bit of a different story, perhaps, if we didn't have the drivers making or getting into those incidents. I don't think either of the incidents were really much of the drivers involved's fault. So we'll see what the results of the rest of the field are. You can see them there as we get ready for the feature race. I'm looking forward to it.
So Van Weerld, Lindy, Baldwin, and Hanna advance into the feature. Unfortunately for Hulse, Brusso, Gara, Antonessen, Sierra Jr., and Kirtley, who had connection issues, never was able to take the green flag in either the heat race or the LCQ. All of those drivers are heading home. But at this point, Dane, we're getting ready for the feature race of RX2, and just taking a look at those points again, of course, with Zach Knowles now being out of the RX2 division, he moves up into RX1. We're really only looking at that battle for second and third between McKenna and Campbell, with it being about 5 points separated between those two. McKenna, assuming if he gets a good finish here, does not end up having to rely on this race being dropped. He's going to end up keeping this points lead, and Campbell trying to get from second place, as it really is a battle between those two right now. Nobody else even close.
Yeah, exactly. And just looking back, it's 19 points back to Paul Mikolajczyk there in fourth place, and then a two-way tie just behind that as well. So it's still super close behind them. None of those drivers are going to be looking up at the top three, well, really the top two, and worrying too much about them. But McKenna and Campbell, they're going to be starting side by side at the beginning of this feature race, and I cannot wait.
As the field takes to the track for warm-up, just a little bit more time remaining in said warm-up before we get racing in our feature race. Remember, even though we had a bit of a different way of getting there in terms of 2 heats instead of 3, 1 LCQ instead of 2, taking 4 from each of our races tonight, this still will be a 10-lap, 12-competitor feature race, which is going to be incredibly entertaining, especially in the RX2 division. And remember, after the conclusion of RX2, after we interview drivers from this division, we get ready for RX1 when those drivers are going to take the green flag, and you do not want to miss a minute of the action when some of the best of iRacing Rallycross get ready to go head-to-head. Time to take a look at the starting grid for our feature race from Barcelona, and it's Carson McKenna and Tyler Campbell taking the top 2 spots from winning their heat races, and then back from there, it's Andrew Howell, Thomas Grady, 3rd and 4th, Sean Winkler, and Trevor Teal going to round out your top 6. And rounding out your field of 12, it is Ian Fisher, Russell Peterson, Carson McKenna, Sim Van Weerl, Matthew Lindy, Dylan Baldwin, and Noel Hanna. Carson McKenna on the pole. He's got Tyler Campbell and Andrew Howell that will be starting in 2nd and 3rd, as it is 2 by 2 by 2 by 2 by 2, just configured a little bit differently than the normal pace laps you'd see 2 by 2 on the iRacing service. But getting ready for this feature race, Dane. This one's going to be exciting because we've seen nothing but fireworks here from virtual Barcelona. And those revs are getting ready to climb, and we are green flag racing in the RX2 feature, and already trying to make a move to the inside is Thomas Grady, who's going to make hard contact to the back bumper, and Tyler Campbell pushes Campbell wide. One driver gets turned in the back as they're 2 by 2 into the dirt. Everybody fighting for real estate. Trevor Teal falls to 6th, side by side. Tyler Campbell trying to get to the inside of Andrew Howell, makes contact with the guardrail, and Campbell's around. That is a big moment for the championship as Campbell gets turned. Lindy and Baldwin also fighting each other as McKenna leads. Winkler, Grady, Howell, Teal in top 5.
And McKenna now has a huge opportunity to gain some points in the championship. Of course, this may end up being a drop ground for Campbell, but it's just not something you want inside of still the first half of the season. And McKenna has a huge opportunity here to get some good points, but Campbell dropping all the way to the back. This is an absolute disastrous start.
This is not what Tyler Campbell needed or wanted, and on that start, it was just a lot of contact in the middle of the pack, and Campbell seemed like it was just wrong place, wrong time, ended up getting turned as Andrew Howell will dive into the Joker. First one to do it in Heat 1, first one to do it in the feature as well. Will lose a spot to Trevor Teal. Ian Fisher looked like he also dived into the Joker that time by. Actually, Sim Van Weerl and Russell Peterson behind. Ian Fisher slots in between the Joker drivers of Howell, Van Weerl, and Peterson, but McKenna at the front still yet to take that Joker. Let's see what happened here to Tyler Campbell, because it was a bit of an intense accident there, and this is going to be detrimental to him in the championship now, Dane, as we saw the incident off the start, and we'll go all the way back and see exactly what had happened here to Campbell. And Thomas Grady just got a little bit overzealous in the first corner, ended up making contact, and didn't make contact with the tires or anything for Campbell, so he was able to keep going, gets a hip check from Trevor Teal, comes back on, has to save that Subaru, but then right about here, he just goes for the move on Howell, hits the guardrail, and more contact from Teal. I don't think Teal's really in the wrong there, and that ends up getting Campbell spun around and losing a ton of spots.
Yep, he tried to make the move on the inside, got given pretty much zero space, and also not really anyone's fault there. That's just how the circuit goes. We'll see from the onboard especially, this is already an absolute disaster for Campbell because overtaking here is so difficult. He has to now try and make some moves, gets that contact, somehow keeps the car in a straight line, but here he's up the inside now, tries to make the move, just gets cut off slightly, hits the wall, hits the curb, unsettles the car, and Teal behind has absolutely nowhere to go, and unfortunately there's only one place that 37's going.
So that was what put Tyler Campbell to the back of the field, currently scored in 12th as everybody has now taken their Joker lap before the halfway point of this race. And out in front, Carson McKenna with a considerable lead over Sean Winkler, who's the chaser, but battle for 3rd, Thomas Grady versus Andrew Howell. Remember, Grady, a competitor in the Off-Road Championship Series, the first ever World Championship for the Pro 4s on iRacing. He sits 3rd as Andrew Howell trying to chase him down in the 666 for the last spot on the podium, and way out wide goes Thomas Grady. Howell to the bottom, completes the move.
Up into 3rd position then for Howell as well, into this long left hand on the tarmac, immediately into a braking zone, up and over the curbs. You can see they'll use all of the blue curbs into this first dirt section. Halfway through the race there or thereabouts, as back onto the tarmac they will go, but Grady still hanging around there, so definitely a battle that we will see more of as the race progresses. I'm pretty confident about that. But this part of the circuit here is just so narrow and so tight and twisty with the barriers close on either side as well.
Oh, and hard onto the turtle curb there in the background went Thomas Grady, trying to use as many track limits as he can, but 5 laps to go here in the feature race for RX2, and McKenna's looking for yet another feature race win as Sean Winkler, I think it's comfortable to say, Dane, that he might be one of the most improved drivers in this season of RX2, is still going for some of his first wins, but this is going to be another consistent finish at the front of the field for Sean Winkler in the 17, and close to Carson McKenna, within 2 seconds of one of our championship contenders, and I think now it's Zach Knowles at RX1 championship favorite, and he's holding a candle to him.
Yeah, and just looking at a little bit further back, we've got Campbell starting to make up those positions as well on his recovery drive. So every point when he's in that situation matters a huge amount, because you've still got 5 rounds left to go. You don't know what's going to happen in those rounds. You might need to drop another one. McKenna might need to drop a couple of extra rounds as well. So every point now is crucial for Campbell. As we can see here, a little bit wide into the dirt section. You can see how tricky it is to get on the brakes there. Almost more contact. I thought for a second he was going to get turned around again.
Campbell trying to get back up from P9 as Van Weerld and Peterson are now in a battle for P6. Not for a spot on the podium, but for some much needed points as they go fighting off of the dirt and through the final corner here. Teal is out wide, and Teal is in trouble around and into the grass for the Nitro Circus Subaru.
Yep, and such an awkward place to try and get going again, and he's all in the wall. He's moving the wall around. He's into the concrete barriers as well there. This is going to be a reset for Trevor Teal there. I wonder, there's so much damage to the front of that car now, but trying to get turned around was almost an impossible job there.
Let's see what happened to Teal. And it happened when he worked his way out of the dirt section that he's coming up to now. It was past the jump. And I'm wondering if he tried to point it towards the inside here and ended up just not calculating it correctly. Good here. Oh, he hit the tire barrier on the inside. We've seen a lot of drivers take the turtle curve there, Dane, but he flew a little bit too close to the sun and ended up hitting the tires.
Yeah, that was an interesting one there. It's something that's very difficult to get right, because coming out of the jump, you are already sideways. You're setting up the right-hander before you reach the jump. You'll see here through the left, and now they swing to the right over the jump. Bit of an awkward landing, and you're carrying that momentum the whole way through. And you see McKenna gets it right there, but Teal was maybe a little bit too early on the swing to the right. Maybe just didn't get it quite right, and that trajectory, it's almost impossible to change it once you're already around the corner.
White flag out for the feature race, and Carson McKenna is looking for this feature race win. A lot on the line now for him, with Zach Knowles, who led the points championship, graduating to RX1 and leaving the door wide open for Carson McKenna to win the championship. We were wondering if the pressure would get to him, but it seems like it has not so far, and halfway through this season, we're looking at a new points leader. Through the final corner, and Carson McKenna is your RX2 feature race winner from Catalonia.
Huge victory for the championship there. The Texan making his way into that victory lane, and so important that he got those maximum points, because every single time where your main championship rival is taken out of the equation, he's not racing you in this race, you need to get those maximum points.
Unbelievable win for Carson McKenna, and he is going to solidify himself now that Zach Knowles is an RX1 as the current championship favorite for RX2. McKenna wins from virtual Barcelona. Sean Winkler comes home second, Thomas Grady third, Andrew Howell fourth, Sim Van Weerld going to round out your top five with Russell Peterson, Ian Fisher, Matthew Lindy, Dylan Baldwin, and Noel Hanna rounding out your top 10. And rounding out your field in RX2 feature race was Tyler Campbell and Trevor Teal, who after all that contact ended up towing it back to the pit lane. So one division over and done from virtual Barcelona. And remember, RX1 is coming up immediately following our post-race here of RX2. But let's not waste any time, Dane. Let's get to talking to these RX2 drivers. And up first, it is our feature race winner, and it is Carson McKenna. Back to Racecraft TV, RX2 Victory Lane. And Carson, what a race for you. And with let's start with just this race tonight, this track being such a wild card, not a ton of experience across the field at this venue, and it seemed like you didn't skip a beat with all of your winning tonight. Congrats.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, this track's, I like it personally, but I know most everybody else despises it. Just the real technical track.
And of course, now with Zach Knowles graduating into RX1, this is kind of gifting you a points lead just kind of by default. But I think you've shown tonight that you really are here to run for a championship. And now halfway through the campaign, what's the last half look like to you in terms of the schedule? Are you confident with the tracks that are on it, or are you seeing like you need to get some more practice and get back into the testing?
Yeah, I definitely will be practicing more because I know Iowa's never been my favorite track. Knock Hill is always chaotic, but yeah, I'm still fairly confident in the rest of the season.
And with now the next track on the calendar being Charlotte Motor Speedway, normally a championship track for Racecraft Rallycross, but we're going there in the middle of the season. Where are you at in terms of confidence there? Is that going to be one of those tracks that you just mentioned that you're going to have to go back and try and get a little bit more laps on?
Yeah, I'll definitely be putting on a lot of laps for Charlotte. It's been probably since, I can't remember, honestly, probably last season since I ran Charlotte. It's been a good while.
Well, Carson, congratulations on your feature race win at RX2. Who makes it all possible for you? Who do you have to give a shout out to?
I just want to thank Team Watson Racing and James Watson for having me on.
And thank you very much for joining us in the Racecraft TV booth. That is Carson McKenna, your feature race winner tonight in RX2. And Dana, you're standing by with the driver that ended up just short and second step on the podium. It's Sean Winkler.
Yeah, Sean, welcome to the broadcast booth. And second place for you at Barcelona. Pretty good stuff. Barcelona, very interesting circuit, very different circuit to the rest of the circuits on the calendar. What are your thoughts on the circuit, first of all?
Yeah, sure is. First of all, it's glad to be back here talking to you guys. I've missed you a lot. So I just wanted to race clean and race good so I can get back here and have a nice chat with y'all. It was fun.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Yeah, second place, a fantastic finish for you. Just talk us through the start, because obviously very wide circuit at the beginning, obviously part of the Grand Prix circuit before it tightens up. 5 wide almost into the first corner of the race, and then into probably one of the tightest sections of the circuit immediately. How does that all pan out?
Yeah, well, fortunately I was starting on the inside there, and I know a lot of people, they're probably going to try and break deep and break late and go wide. So I tried to tuck inside and just get a good drive out of there, and it looks like it worked out for me this time.
And then the technicality of the circuit. How much practice did you have to put in before you got to a pace that you were happy with? Because it is there's so many corners on the circuit, so many difficult corners on the circuit, loads of dirt as well to keep you occupied. So, what are your thoughts on the circuit overall?
Yeah, I've put a lot of laps in the past here, but I haven't driven it in a while. So it took me a couple good hours to get back on kind of a point there and hit my marks and be consistent and not spin, and where to pull the handbrake at the right time and things like that. So it took me a little while, but I'm happy with it overall. Yeah, thanks.
And then heading into the second half of the championship now. Next week, Charlotte Motor Speedway, a circuit that you're probably going to be a little bit more familiar with, I would imagine, with it being a rookie circuit. So used a whole lot in official series and leagues alike. What are your thoughts heading into that next round?
Yeah, you're right. It is a rookie circuit, and I've definitely driven a few more laps there. So I like that track. It's a little faster, flows great. I'm excited for it. I'm just going to try and, race clean, race fast, hit my marks, and do the best I can. See what happens.
Sounds fantastic. Well, Sean, great to have you back here. Congratulations on that second place feature finish as well. Who did you got to thank before we let you go?
Yeah, first of all, I got a new setup, so I want to shout out Garrett Maines over at SimSeats for helping me out with this whole new rig here. Josh Edmondson, Jim Beaver Esports, and those guys helped me with my Racecraft, VRS, SimCube, the Huizenfeld pedals, HP Reverb, VR. Really happy with my equipment, and it's helping me race.
Well, thank you so much for joining us for a chat, and we'll see you next week at Charlotte.
I hope so. See you guys.
Oh, fantastic to hear from Sean there, and yeah, he's very happy to be here, and honestly, rightfully so. He's had a very impressive week here at Barcelona.
And a very impressive season as well. I need to correct myself. 2 wins in RX2 for Sean Winkler, so he knows how to get it done when it comes to Racecraft Rallycross. But now in the championship, he came into tonight tied for 7th. This is going to help him, of course, with 2 drop weeks as well. He won't need to take this, and that means another bad finish for Winkler is going to be thrown out. And same thing for Tyler Campbell. This is going to be his drop week, Dane. And as we continue on the RX2 calendar, now for Tyler Campbell especially, he needs to be perfect in these last 5 rounds, or else he's at jeopardy of getting out of this championship fight, especially with McKenna right back to victory lane, and maximum points as well for McKenna.
Yep, absolutely. Maximum points, so crucial, because it is impossible to drop that. Those are guaranteed points in the season. That's as much as you could ask for, especially halfway through the season. It might not look so much like, you know, it's going to be massively important, but with that drop round and with your main championship rival at this point not having a good time out there, it is so much more important.
Well, that'll conclude our coverage tonight for RX2. The field is taking to the track for practice of RX1. And we'll be back for that coverage, starting with qualifying here from virtual Barcelona. But for now, that'll conclude our coverage of RX2. These were the up-and-comers of iRacing Rallycross, but now we're going to go to the World Championship competitors and some of the best iRacing has to offer in Dirt Road. RX1 is coming up next. You're watching Racecraft TV and Racecraft Rallycross. Stay tuned for more.
This is iRacing, the world's premier online racing game. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat to experience today's newest form of competitive motorsport, virtual racing, all from your home PC. Race virtually in endorsed series from NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, the World of Outlaws, Aussie Supercars and more. Take on legendary circuits like Daytona, Silverstone and the Nürburgring. Join iRacing's global online racing community and get on track today at iRacing.com.
RX2 is over and done, and it is time for some of the best of iRacing Rallycross to go head-to-head in round number 5 of Racecraft Rallycross. We're happy that all of you are back with us here on Racecraft TV as we get ready for a continuation of this 5th round of the campaign. I'm your host, Joshua Lee. Joining me in the booth, as always, is Dane Baird. And Dane, we discussed the schedule earlier, but the change from Hell on Cabanan over to Lucas Oil Raceway is a big one, especially for the drivers that had competed in the World Championship in the past. And we have plenty of those drivers here with us tonight in RX1. These drivers have not raced on that track since 2020 in that season of the World Championship.
Yeah, falling out of favor a little bit, but I honestly love the circuit. It has a couple of problems, but far fewer problems than Hell has been having as of late. So that's why it takes Hell's place. And I don't think many of the drivers are going to disagree with that decision being made. Hell, probably one of the drivers' least favorite circuits for racing, as I said in RX2 and the RX2 pre-show. But yeah, the World Championship drivers, they love the circuit, but it's got too many problems to be viable to be used in any kind of competition, at least in my opinion. So Lucas Oil, a fantastic circuit, lots of fun to send the car around that place. A lot of overtaking opportunities around that place as well. So it'll be really interesting to see how both RX1 and RX2 fare around that place. But now we have Barcelona. We've already seen some fantastic racing in RX2. And RX1 just ups the level of competition just that a little bit more. We've had a couple of RX2 guys promote up into it recently, so we'll see how they fare as well.
And taking a look at the points currently for RX1, it tells a similar story to RX2. Very, very close to the top. 3 points separating Jacob Rafos and Tommy Makinen, with Josh Fox, Garrett Maines, and Connor Priest at the top 5. If those names sound familiar, don't worry, you're not confused. All the top 5 are former competitors in the iRacing Rallycross World Championship presented by Yokohama. Adam Alderton was very close to qualifying. Francois Martel, bit of a wild card name up here in the top 10, but Christian Ravas Lindo, Josh Edmondson, and Vicente Salas, some of the best in not only Rallycross but also in iRacing off-road and iRacing in general for drivers like Vicente Salas, a competitor in the eNASCAR series.
And that might not look like too crazy, but Vicente Salas has only done 1 round, hasn't he?
That is only 1 round counted for Vicente Salas. He has no drops counted yet, of course, because he only has 1 points paying round out of the 2.
And he's already up into the top 10 as well, and not too far off the drivers in front. So he's obviously also former world champion driver in the Rallycross World Championship series, so obviously incredibly quick, so expecting some good things from him today as well. But some of the drivers up at the front, it's so difficult to try and pick a winner in any single race that we look at, any of the heat races, any of the LCQs even, and then once we get to the feature race and we've got all of these drivers on the track together, it is just insane.
Field taken to the track right now for qualifying, and it will be the same exact format that we had for RX2, which is going to be 2 heat races. We'll take 4 from each of those heat races, then a consolation LCQ. We'll take 4 from that to make up 12 drivers that'll go green flag racing in the feature, which is a bit different, Dane, but also it gives more opportunity for these drivers to get their way into the feature. And of course, with less drivers taking to the track tonight, only 16 out of a possible 24 are taking time here in qualifying. So that leaves a little bit more of an opportunity for these drivers. We're only going to cut 4 now from the feature instead of the normal 12.
Yep, so it's going to be a little bit more challenging for the drivers to get into those spots, and LCQ going to become even more important for them as well. So we'll see if that changes the way that the drivers think about things at all. We see maybe when things start to get a little bit more tense, the drivers start to make maybe some more rush decisions, maybe some more risky plays. So we'll see how that affects things. But still, very technical circuit. It's almost impossible to make overtakes happen here unless you're using the Joker or the bumper of the car in front of you. But yeah, it can give us some fantastic racing. So can't wait to see these drivers out on circuit racing once qualifying is done.
Qualifying has just concluded. We are ready to take a look at your starting grid for the first heat race of the evening. Fastest in qualifying, how about Adam Alderton? In the 27, we'll start on the pole here for heat race 1. Connor Parisi, Robbie Larill, second and third. David Schofield, Alexander Abetti, the top 5 with Marcus Palacio, Alexander Poteet, and Daniel Aish. Gonna round out the full field of drivers that are getting ready to go green flag racing in our first heat race of the evening. And as the drivers take to the starting grid, this is always when the kind of tone for the night is set, Dane. We saw a lot of aggressive racing in Heat 1 of RX2. That led throughout the entire RX2 event tonight. What do you think we'll see here in RX1?
Maybe some cleaner racing, although some of the drivers up in the World Championship Series making contact left, right, and center. I think it's going to be a little bit quicker, and also the Joker strategy might be just a bit more important because these guys are going to be a little bit more consistent.
Well, field is getting ready to go green now. Daniel Aish is the only driver not to head to the starting grid. We'll see if he is going to make his way onto the grid, or we'll go racing with just 7 drivers, as the clock is going to expire in about 20 some odd seconds for Danny Aish to make his way to the grid. Aish being an Australian freestyle motocross rider. One of the many drivers that has real-world experience, albeit in a different form of motorsport, but still a real-life racer coming into the virtual world and competing in Racecraft Rallycross, but doesn't look like he is going to take to the grid. It looked like he had a disconnection and is now trying to get back into the race server, but he's not going to have enough time to take the grid here in the heat race. He'll have to set up for the LCQ. We're getting ready to go racing in heat race number 1 of RX1. Green flag goes up, and we are racing in the first heat of the night. Bad start in the back. That was Alexander Poteet. That's going to fall back to P7, but Connor Parisi gets shoved wide as Adam Alderton goes to the race lead, uses the turtle curve to his advantage, slides it into the dirt, but Connor Parisi is already looking for a race lead as the 11 gets aggressive through the dirt section for the first time.
Yeah, we might be able to see him make a little bit of a lunge here into the final corner. We're not going to see that happen, though. This is pushing the car in front around of Alderton around the final corner to start officially the first lap of the race. In towards the left-hand that they go. Not too many overtaking opportunities for the drivers through this part. It's very tight and twisty. Only chance of getting past here is if the driver in front makes a mistake.
All the drivers using the turtle curbs as much as possible. Not a ton of handbrake usage there. Not a ton of sliding there as Parisi's going to go way wide. That's going to open the door for Robbie Larill to try and get that second spot away. Remember, we'll take the top 4, and this time by will be the first lap that the Joker lane is open for business. Who's going to go for it early? Does Adam Alderton decide to? No. What about Connor Parisi or Robbie Larill? Also no. David Schofield, last driver in a transfer spot. He's also going to not take the Joker yet. The first driver to take it, Marcus Palacio from P6.
And you see just how much speed he's going to carry through that final corner now in towards the first straight as well. We'll see. This Joker strategy is going to be interesting. Usually with these longer Jokers, the drivers tend to take it a bit earlier than what we'd otherwise see on the shortcuts, where it seems that they leave it until the last possible moment. Obviously, like I said earlier, the last possible moment, not the way to go for this specific Joker, because of all the speed that you gain heading on to the very next lap. So if you take it on the last lap, you miss out on all of that advantage. Into the background, I think that's Larill, is it? That's just gone to the Joker.
Yes, it is the 213 of Robbie Larill. He'll drop to the final transfer spot, but he has that Joker lane done. Remember, here at Barcelona, it is the long way around instead of the short way. Unlike all of the Jokers we have seen this season where they've been shortcuts, this one is a very, very tight and long version of this lap. So that means they lose time on the Joker instead of gain it. So Larill, by taking that Joker, now is an opportunity to get by Schofield if he's able to get close enough. And most notably here, Dane Parisi has an opportunity to get by Alderton. They both don't take the Joker at the same time, but Parisi, with 3 to go this time, takes it. And now 2 laps to go for Adam Alderton.
He has to take it now, of course, to avoid that loss of advantage down the back straight, but we'll see if Parisi can get a good lap together. We'll see if Alderton can also get a good lap together now, because Alderton, he knows that he's got to take the Joker this time by. He's under a little bit of pressure because he knows if he makes a mistake on this lap, that could well be the lead gone. So we'll see, heading through this part of the circuit, Parisi dropping back ever so slightly through the dirt section, dropping back quite a bit actually. He's lost almost a full second of time there, and Alderton looks like he should be able to just breeze straight past into the lead again.
With Adam Alderton in the lead, Jokers this time. 1 to go. White flag will be out, and he will be well and clean of Connor Parisi. David Schofield and Robbie Larill are in a battle for third. This is not for the transfer spot, but this will put either Schofield further down in order starting for the feature, or will keep Larill where he currently is at the edge of those 4 transfer places through the dirt section. How aggressive is Larill willing to get for that third position? Through the final corner of this dirt section, and way out wide goes Schofield, but Larill on the handbrake almost fully stopped in the apex of that corner. They'll continue to go side by side as at the end of the lap, Adam Alderton looking for the win, but it's all the battle for third that we're focused on. Adam Alderton wins the heat, Parisi second. What's going to happen for third as Larill and Schofield get aggressive on the turtle curve for the 213, but Schofield keeps third. Larill has to settle for P4.
All over the turtle curve, they're very nearly making contact as well. They were banging on the doors heading to the final dirt section. Fantastic race between the two of them, nice and clean stuff. That's what we love to see. Larill eventually does cede that battle for third and fourth, and you see the results up on the screen now. And yeah, just very close between Schofield and Larill at the end there.
Alderton, Parisi, Schofield, and Larill will be the drivers advancing into the feature. Palacio, Poti, Abedi, Aish will have to advance to the LCQ. Starting grid for the second and final heat race of the night. Jacob Rafoss, Josh Fox on the front row. Josh Edmondson, Zach Knowles, a graduate from RX2, sits fourth. Josh Clogg, Toby Ward, a new name into RX1, will start sixth, with Steve Ainge and Rafael Franco rounding out the 8 drivers that are on the grid for heat race number 2. And Jacob Rafoss on the front row, a multi-time winner in the iRacing Off-Road Championship Series this season back in RX, and he has looked the best out of anybody this season, Dane, in this series. So gotta watch for that Jim Beaver Esports entry as the 13 will start on the pole here for heat race number 2. Josh Fox was on the grid and now will start to the outside line of Jacob Rafoss as they go into the first corner. 3 wide behind, one driver gets pushed way out to the outside. Look to be the 099 of Zach Knowles as he has to settle for 8th place, but way wide goes Josh Fox. He cuts back to the inside, but to the race lead goes Jacob Rafoss in the Dirtfish entry.
Yep, so quick, and Fox having some troubles with the internet connection, but Rafoss is extremely lucky because at the beginning of the race, Clog got a little bit deep on the brakes and became millimeters to the rear end of Jacob Rafoss there. So heading into the dirt section again, they're all single files, 2 wide, a little bit further back as they try and sort of cycle their way through this section and into the final corner. It's not the final corner, it's the final corner in the real world, into the dirt section again. The Frost all over the turtle curves, getting the car nice and sideways. It's one of the few circuits, Josh, where getting it sideways is actually beneficial.
And at the front, still Rafoss that leads the way. Remember, first opportunity for a Joker is this time. Rafoss no, Fox no. Neither is Clog or Edmondson. Toby Ward doesn't either. Steve Ainge is going to come in from 6th, but nobody else at the front of the field decides to come in as 2nd, 3rd, and 4th are all Joshes currently on the field. And I'm very proud that all 3 Joshes are in those transfer spots.
It reminds me of the battle of the Joshes that happened maybe a year ago now. That was something to watch for sure. But yeah, loads of Joshes in the field. They've managed to all somehow end up in the same heat race, so that's a bit of a coincidence there. But they're all being absolutely hammered by Jacob Rafoss up there. So yeah, it's a good job. Rafoss is not letting the Joshes take a 1, 2, 3, but currently they are all still occupying those transfer spots.
And close enough. I mean, top 4 are all J names, so I'll also take a little bit of pride for that one as well. But halfway through the heat, and still nobody else taking the Joker except for Steve Ainge, and Rafoss leading wondering when he's going to think about taking it, because look at Josh Fox in the 12 behind. He's close, but definitely not close enough. Then if a Joker lap were to come out from Jacob Rafos this time, he's not going to be close enough to make anything happen, especially if he hasn't already taken that Joker lane as well. Seems like the top 4 at least looking to just kind of coast and get their transfer spots at the end of this race. But as I say that, Fox decides this time's the best to come in. He'll come out right next to Edmondson. Not as close as I thought they would be to contact with Clog and Edmondson. They continue to race on, but Rafos still with a hefty gap, 4.5 seconds.
Yeah, and the Joker strategy is starting to play a huge hand in how this race is going to play out. And this one isn't even for maximum points either. Remember, it is only the heat race that the drivers are in. And we've just got so many big names up in there that the racing has just been so good so far. And here he comes now. Not on the final lap, but on the penultimate lap. Rafos into the Joker. Is there going to be any traffic in his way? No, there's not. He comes out to some clear air.
Taking a look on board with Jacob Rafos, currently first, and you mentioned not a lot of traffic for him exiting the Joker, and just about none as he exits the Joker and into the final dirt section he goes, and looking for yet another heat race win. This has been the year of Jacob Rafos when it comes to this series. He has been all but unbeatable in RX1 this season. And across the line this time, he looks for yet another heat race win. Checkered flag out for heat race 2, and Jacob Rafos is victorious in the Jim Beaver Esports number 13.
Straight onto the front row of that feature grid he goes. We'll see him back after the LCQ that's coming up. The last chance for any drivers to make their way through into that feature race, and we'll see the position of the drivers. It was fairly spread out behind the top 4.
Out past the top 4, it was Ward and Ainge separated by about 2.5 seconds. 4 seconds back to Knowles and another 10 seconds back to Rafael Franco, who we were just watching there. But the Scandinavian beats all of the North Americans there and gets the race win of heat number 2. Fox, Clog, and Edmondson advance with him. Ward, Ainge, Knowles, and Franco will have to advance to the LCQ, which we are ready to get started with now. Let's take a look at that starting grid. It'll be Marcus Palacio on the pole position, Toby Ward to his outside, Alexander Poteet, Steve Ainge, Alexander Abedi, and Zach Knowles the top 6, with Daniel Aish and Rafael Franco rounding out that starting grid for the LCQ. And we wait on Daniel Aish again. I believe he has fixed his connection, maybe, but we will find out. Yes, he has. He has taken to the starting grid, and we are ready to go racing in the LCQ. 4 drivers will advance into the feature to make a 12-car feature race. We are racing in the LCQ. It's a great start up at the front for Marcus Palacio. He grabs the lead side by side for second. It'll be Toby Ward in the Ford Fiesta grabbing second place. Alexander Abedi trying to protect third as Daniel Aish with a big move to the inside like a torpedo. Shades of Danny Kvyat, and he goes to P3 in one move.
And now single file into these last couple of corners to start off this LCQ. Everybody's still extremely close. We might be able to see a bit of a lunge being made here in towards this second corner on the circuit. The long left-hander on the tarmac a bit wide. Goes Abedi just behind, and Knowles is going to have a look at the inside. They make contact and into the wall goes Abedi. A little bit of damage to the Subaru, and now they make their way through onto the third section again. And Ainge wants to have a little bit of a look here.
On lap 1 of the LCQ, a lot of drama already, as on that transfer spot, it is Alexander Abedi, but Zach Knowles in P5 trying to catch back up to those transfer spots. It hasn't been all smooth sailing for Zach Knowles on his graduation into RX1. Dane, of course, being so successful at RX2, graduates to this series with all of his off-road experience as well. It's a good fit for Zach Knowles, but really having to deal with all these world championship competitors, he's showing it is not easy to do.
And to these last few corners then before they reach the jump. Very easy to make a small mistake here, and that could be extremely costly. Now these drivers up in front, yeah, to take to the Joker. We'll see when they decide to do so. Anyone up from the top 3 taking to the Joker this time by? No. 4th place goes down. That's Abedi.
Alexander Abedi in that white number 99 goes into the Joker. He'll lose 2 spots to Franco and Knowles, but there is the massive run, and there's the block from Zach Knowles. Able to protect that spot for the moment. To the inside goes Abedi. They make contact, both spin through the wide corner. They make contact again going into the dirt. Knowles hits Abedi. Abedi is now gonna be out of this race. Engine damage to the number 99, and that takes him out of contention for a transfer. Give the final transfer spot to Rafael Franco, and top 4 still have yet to take to the Joker.
And Knowles just back and forth with the contact between the two of them. Abedi running a little bit deep into the left-hander, taking Knowles all the way out, almost to the gravel on the outside there, and then making his way back as well. Just a bit of a lunge up the inside. We'll see here, a little bit loose. Goes Abedi, tap of the rear end for Knowles, and Knowles was alongside. It just makes a little bit of contact there. 2 into 1 does not go, especially into that probably the tightest part of the circuit.
Let's take a look on board with Zach Knowles, because now you can see Abedi going to the inside. There's 1 contact, and I think rightfully so. Knowles was to the inside. Abedi's spotter would have been telling him he was there. I don't think much blame can really be put on Zach Knowles if you try and put any blame on him at all, because he did have that spot there on the inside. It should have been his corner.
Yeah, he had those alongside. He had every right to some racing room, and that just wasn't given to him. But yeah, still huge contact, unfortunately, taking them both out of contention for that spot that they were fighting over so well up until that point. As the checkered flag is out, of course, and heading up and over the jump, they show with a pretty good showing out there in the LCQ.
He saved his Joker for the last possible moment with a 6-second gap between himself and Ward. Easy sailing for Marcus Palacio as he comes across the line. Who is going to follow him? It will be Ward and Aish with a great battle for second there. They settle for second and third, respectively, and Rafael Franco is going to be the last driver to advance into our feature race. Everybody else back from there will have to settle for going home, including the 2 of Knowles and Abedi after their battle, and Abedi finishing in the pit lane after that one. What an intense LCQ. Palacio, Ward, Aish, and Franco, the top 4, advance into the feature. Poteet, Ainge, Knowles, and Abedi are heading home tonight. And I mentioned how the heat races would set the tone for the night. The heat races were aggressive, and so was that LCQ, Dane, and I'm excited to see what we're going to see in the feature when we put 12 drivers on the track for 10 laps.
I can give you a bit of a hint. I'm going to say some chaos, maybe? Yeah, heading into that first corner, obviously, they are 5 wide, especially if a couple of drivers can get good jumps, if a couple of drivers get bad launches as well, equally. 5 wide into that corner. That's completely fine. Then it tightens up almost immediately, and that's where it becomes a problem. When you've got the little bit of a left kink onto the dirt, into the right hander, walls close on either side, and it is a recipe for disaster. The drivers try and make it through as cleanly as possible, but again, at the start of the race, are you really just going to sit back and watch as people go around you? No, you're going to have a little bit of a back and forth, and unfortunately, that is why we see so much contact being made in the starts of the races. But I'm very excited to see what the drivers do. We've got some incredibly high-level drivers up, especially in the front 6-7 of the field. So this is going to be a very interesting feature race.
Interesting indeed, as of course we can take another look at those point standings as warm-up begins to wrap its way on up. And Jacob Rafas, Winner of his heat race and heat race number 1. Still no Tommy Makinen in the field, so Makinen will have to take another drop. Not sure how that's going to affect the points, but we'll see if he ends up keeping that 55 or if he's going to drop a little bit further down in the field. If he keeps second place, excuse me, or ends up dropping down further in the field. But with Fox and Mains, no Garrett Mains here as well. That 4th spot could be at jeopardy. Fox and Parisi have a great opportunity to kind of solidify themselves in the top 3 of the point standings, depending on what happens in this feature race. We're finally ready to take a look and see who is going to walk away an RX1 feature winner. Let's take a look at that starting grid. It's Adam Alderton on the pole, Jacob Raffoss in second, Connor Parisi, Josh Fox rounding out your first 2 rows, David Schofield and Josh Clogg 5th and 6th. Rounding out your field of drivers for the RX1 feature, it's Robbie Lavrille, Josh Edmondson, Marcus Palacio, and Toby Ward, the top 10, Danny H, and Rafael Franco, all 12 drivers on the grid. It's time to send these drivers off and into turn number 1. We've seen all the action of RX2, but now it's time to see the action of some of iRacing's best. Go Racing from virtual Barcelona. We're green for the RX1 feature. And on the inside, Adam Alderton looks for the early lead, and he's going to get it away from the man that has been unbeatable in this season of RX1, Jacob Raffoss. Raffoss tries to go back to the inside. A little bit of a door slam as they fight for real estate through the dirt, but Alderton's going to force his way to the race lead. Raffoss, Parisi, Fox, and Clogg the top 5 as they all fight their way through the first asphalt corner. And in the lead, it's Alderton, but Raffoss is right there on the back bumper. He's going to look for the race lead as they go through the middle sector.
And all single file for now. Raffoss making a little bit more contact with the rear bumper of Alderton now into the dirty section for the first time. He's done more contact. Raffoss is literally pushing Alderton around this opening lap, but now stand up the inside into the hairpin. They're going to make some contact, and Alderton keeps it going in a straight line, has a little bit of an advantage now. Raffoss has a bit of catching up to do, but into the dirt section again, a bit of a send and a little bit more contact being made, but so far good team racing.
Adam Alderton in the lead with Raffoss, Parisi, Fox, and Clogg behind. Who jokers this time? Does anybody dare to do it? Lavrille will from 6, but at the front, it's Adam Alderton, Jacob Raffoss, and more that are still yet to take to those jokers. They remain the closest battles that we have seen all night long are this top 5 that are all within about 4/10 of each other on this racetrack, all within striking distance with a mistake, and there might be one from Alderton. Contact made to the door by Jacob Raffoss, but the 27 of Alderton aggressively holds the race lead. Raffoss looks back to the inside through the dirt, but Alderton moves him out of room. Beautifully done with the defense.
Absolutely perfect from Adam. You cannot ask for any more than what he's doing right now, but when the Joker strategy starts, this is going to be an insanely close battle between not just the front 2, Parisi and Fox just biding their time, waiting in the background. They're right on Raffoss's tail as well, so Alderton has still got a lot to do. Raffoss on the inside to the third section, they make more contact, and Alderton's going to be around. More contact being made. Alderton up into the background, and so is Parisi as well. Parisi turned all the way around. Raffoss finally has the lead, but he had to make a lot of contact to do it. Here comes Clogg for second.
Parisi goes around, Clogg looks for second on Fox, and that is going to change the dynamic of this feature race with the Williams Esports driver now to P2, Jacob Raffoss to the race lead, and that is not going to go over well by Adam Alderton. He falls to 4th. Connor Parisi gets a worse end of that incident. He goes to 8th, and an emergency joker lane now for the 11 of Connor Parisi as he lost a ton of time. He'll lose more with that joker down to P11, but Raffoss in the race lead by 1.2 seconds, and it was because of contact with Adam Alderton. We'll take a look at that replay, Dane, and we'll take a look at the replay because I'm not even fully sure what happened there. Let's take another look at it. Starting back at the beginning of that lap, everybody running so close together, and we knew something like this was going to happen. With one simple mistake, it's very easy to do.
Yep, so Raffoss here, big send into the left-hander, and that's something I've never seen before. Unfortunately, gets into the back of Alderton. I don't think Alderton's done anything wrong there, and Raffoss has just got into the back of him and turned him around. Then Raffoss has got nowhere to go. Parisi hits the back of him. Fox smashes into the back of Parisi as well. Neither of them having a place to go, and Parisi unfortunately ends up worse off out of everybody there. Ends up getting turned right around. You can see here Parisi to the back of Frost, and eventually, bang, side by side, some contact. But Parisi was actually counter-steering some sliding into the left, gets the contact to set him straight, and unfortunately that's just sent him straight off to the left-hand side. So this is it's just an incredibly unfortunate incident that's happened there, but it was all caused by a big send, a pretty optimistic send, I would say, from Rafos.
I think you could look up accordion effect in the dictionary and find Connor Parisi getting spun right about here, because that's all it was the accordion effect of that incident. But now at the front, it's Jacob Rafos, and Josh Fox is getting closer. He is within 1 second now, as the 12 makes a little bit of a mistake at the exit of that corner, loses a few tenths, but now trying to catch back up with Adam Alderton and Josh Clog at the edge of this top 4. It looks like an issue for Josh Edmondson further back. He's slow, and the number 58 falls to P11, but at the front, Jacob Rafos, 4 to go across the line this time, and he holds that race lead, and pretty comfortably as well, but Fox is trying to catch up.
Yep, and a pretty big gap behind as well. Next driver to have taken to the Joker, Loril. Loril's not going to catch up to Jakob Rafos unless Rafos makes some kind of mistake here. So Rafos in massive control of this race. Looking to go, is it 3 on the dot now?
Three laps to go this time by 8 tenths. Separate your top 2 with Rafos and Josh Fox. Nobody else intends to Joker this time by. Does Alderton? No, he does not. Alderton is catching up to this group as well. If we thought Alderton might be out of it, he's back up into the podium places, and he is catching up. Clog Jokers that time. He'll fall into P5. Loril goes to P4. But Alderton is catching. It was 2 seconds. Gap's now 1.7. Does he have enough time to catch up to these race leaders? And when is he going to Joker, more crucially?
Yep, that is definitely the question here. 3 laps to go, 2 laps across the line, so you'd expect Rafos, a bit of a contact with the barriers there. Rafos surely should have gone for the Joker there, but it's going to, it should have gone for the Joker on the end of the next lap, my mistake. Alderton now going into the Joker as well. Where's he going to come out? Alongside Robbie Loril, some contacts made, and Alderton is going to drop back ever so slightly all over the gravel there, and he's going to have to settle for 4th position there. I don't think he's going to be happy with the amount of contact he's been had with him in this race, but he still has about 1.5 laps to go to try and get past Robbie in front of him.
Contact with Robbie Loril there, tough to avoid, especially with Loril really not knowing it was there, and that time just pinching him a little bit too far to the inside tire barrier. But out of the Joker, very difficult to see the drivers coming out of the Joker, because the iRacing spotters don't really tell you if anybody's coming out of the Joker. But Rafos Jokers, Fox follows, so that is going to solidify the top 2 at this point. Rafos, the only way he loses this day on the final lap is if we see another mistake out of the 13, which has been rare this season.
Oh, incredibly rare. Only maybe 2 instances that I can think of. One of them is him clipping the barrier there on a couple of laps ago. A little bit harsh over the sausage curbs here, as you can still see Alderton and Loril fighting hard in the background as well, but just 3 corners left to go for Rafos before he can make it 3 feature race wins in a row. Absolutely incredible stuff from the young driver here. Up and over the jump, 2 corners to go. What a race it's been.
A rising star of the iRacing Rallycross World Championship, rising star of the iRacing Off-Road Championship Series, and 3 in a row in the features in RX1. Jacob Rafos, take a bow. He is your feature race winner tonight from virtual Barcelona, and I think it's a little bit of that's contact with Adam Alderton, Dane.
Yep, somebody's not too happy there, it looks like. We'll see if any words were exchanged after that incident, but you got to understand Adam there. I don't think he definitely didn't expect the move to be made, and really I don't think the move was on in the first place. So Jakob is going to be I would say Jakob's going to be lucky to escape a penalty there, to be honest.
Well, the good news is we will get to talk to both of them, both Rafas and Alderton, along with the Pennsylvania native of Josh Fox. Those are your top three. They'll be joining us here in the booth in a moment. But Rafas, Fox, Alderton, the top three. Loril and Clog rounding out the top five, with Parisi, Aish, Ward, Schofield, and Edmondson the top 10. Back from there, rounding out your field, Palacio and Franco, who ended up one lap down at the end of tonight's race. But unbelievable feature race there, Dane. That one was really intense, and I think we are now seeing how the dynamic of this championship is going to start changing, especially with maybe a little bit of drama between a couple of our drivers.
Yeah, that might be a bit of an understatement, but those two, Rafos and Alderton, have been going back and forth for what feels like years at this point, but it's only been a couple of seasons in this championship, and they're so closely matched. And Rafos, this season especially, just being on top of the world, it always seemed likely, especially at Barcelona, with the way that the circuit works, it always seemed likely that there was going to be some contact, but yeah, these two drivers back and forth with each other, and Rafos once again ends up on top of that. But Adam keeps coming back stronger, and it's only going to be a matter of time before he gets those race wins of his own.
Well, we will begin by speaking to your third place finisher, Adam Alderton. We wait on our winner, Jacob Rafas. Actually, well, there he was for 1 second and now leaves our Discord. So we will start with, never mind. Now we're going to start with our winner, Jacob Rafas. They're messing with me today, Dane, I swear. But we begin with our race winner, Jacob Rafas. And Jacob, 3 in a row in the feature races for you. First of all, congratulations to you and the team. I know you guys have been working hard in the Rallycross sector, and we're really seeing that all pay off this season in RX1.
Yeah, not the way that I want to win the race, but yeah, that's how it is. I'm really sorry to my boy Adam for that contact, but yeah, it is what it is.
And of course, you mentioned that contact, and we kind of just saw the accordion effect happen there. And what led to that contact from your point of view? I know you're very apologetic about it, but it's definitely, we saw the replay, and it just kind of looked like both of you came together. And unfortunately, it ended, but with a spin, which is very easy to do in these RX cars.
Yeah, I haven't watched the replay back, but yeah, it's pretty light contact, but yeah. It is what it is.
And we've spoken about that light contact and how easy it is to get these cars upset with said light contact. But 3 in a row for you in feature races, to really solidifying yourself as the championship favorite. Charlotte in 1 week's time and 5 races to go in the championship. Where's your confidence level at for Charlotte and the rest of the calendar? Can you make it 4 in a row and continue this train?
This is probably my strongest track, and yeah. It's one of my strongest. I would probably run like, crazy amount of lap times. But yeah.
Well, congratulations on your feature race win tonight, Jacob. Who makes it all possible for you? Who do you have to thank here on Racecraft TV?
Dirtfish, General Tire, Vision Wheel, Dirt, and Jim Beaver Esports and all the guys there.
And congratulations once again on your win tonight. That is Jacob Rafas, RX1 feature race winner. We heard him very apologetic about that contact. And Dane, we've talked about it. These cars are very easy to get upset with light contact. And you're standing by with a driver that made no contact with anybody as far as I was concerned, but was also in the middle of that incident. Second place finisher Josh Fox, you're standing by with him now.
Well, I actually, Josh, Joshua Lee, I should say, because you're both called Josh now. But yeah, I actually was involved in that same incident. Josh Fox, second place in the feature race, must feel pretty good. A bit of a chaotic moment halfway through, though.
Yeah, I gotta apologize to Connor because that really ruined his race when we touched front wheels there, and I hated to see it because it looked like it was gonna be a pretty exciting race in the top 4 for, as long as we could have kept from hitting each other. But yeah, I couldn't really see what was happening with Jacob and Adam, and it was just a stack up, and really hate that it cost Connor as well there. So apologies to him.
Well, just looking a bit further on through the race, just nice and clean for you. But this circuit, Barcelona, obviously not used a whole lot, fairly new, relatively speaking, to the iRacing platform as well. What are your thoughts on the circuit? I know some drivers love it, some drivers dislike it. It's a bit of a divisive one.
Yeah, I like it a lot from the entertaining lap. You can really whip the wheel around quite a bit, and you got to be real smart about using the brakes and the curbs. And I think it's one I take a good liking to, because I got home just before this race started and did not have any laps practice before the session started since the last World Championship race, I think. So I think it worked out well under those circumstances, so higher up on my list for sure.
And then heading into the second half of the season, and then up next is Charlotte. What are your thoughts on that circuit?
Yeah, another fun one. I think there's a reason the Finnish RX Championship Series picked that track for their big live event. Definitely good for racing, couple of passing spots, and then an interesting joker there too. So yeah, I like that one a lot too.
Well, congratulations on that second place finish in the feature race. Josh, anyone you'd like to thank before we let you go?
Yeah, thanks a lot to you guys. Really enjoy running the series here on Racecraft TV. Appreciate the guys who put it on, and yeah, we're happy to be out here with the Williams Esports Subaru for BenQ, Chill Blast, Fanatec, Playseat, Heisingfeld, and Team Racer. Thanks.
Well, always great to hear from Josh Fox. Obviously finished second place in the feature race today. And now, Josh, you're standing by with driver in third place. I'm quite surprised you managed to get back up there.
If we would have had the three Joshes on the podium, it would have gotten way more confusing. But luckily, we do have Adam Alderton with us now. Third place finish for you, Adam. And of course, we saw that contact midway through the feature. Just what happened from your perspective? We heard the apology from Jacob Rafos. Not really happy to win the race that way.
Yeah, well, it's not the first time he's done something like that. It's kind of used to it now. Without Jacob behind you, you know it's going to end in a crash. So I was taking my line for the first 2 laps. And then just sent it up the inside in a place you would never send it. Like, of all places with tight chicane, I have nowhere to go. Like, it's either tyre wall or him. I got pinched and I got turned. And yeah, it's just lucky that I ended up in third.
And that drive back for you tonight was a very, very impressive. Was this a track that you were very, very confident coming into tonight? Because we saw you, of course, one of the fastest in qualifying, won your heat race as well. I mean, you were on rails tonight when it came to this track.
Yeah, I know I had good pace around here. It's one of my better tracks, so that kind of makes it even worse, the contact stuff. But I mean, it is what it is. I'm not going to think on it now. But yeah, I think that should have been my win. I think I definitely had the edge over Jacob. So if he wants to drive that way, he can. I'll leave that to him. But yeah.
Continuing to climb your way back up through the point standings. 5 rounds to go. Charlotte, Indianapolis Raceway Park, Phoenix, Knock Hill, and Atlanta. Can you get more wins in the features this season? Get more points on the board and make a run at the championship?
Don't think at the run at the championship, maybe, but in the odd event, which I'll do, if I survive, that is, which is seeming to be a major challenge at the moment. We could probably fight for more wins, but at the moment, it's a bit hard to do that. But we move and focus on Charlotte.
Podium finish for you still tonight, Adam. Congratulations on it. Who do you have to thank? Who do you have to give a shout out to here on Racecraft TV?
Kes Industries, Mario Bonfante Jr., all Robbie the Real, Matthew Lind, Dylan Baldwin for all the help they do on setups, and from One Sports Car for being a big partner for the team.
And congratulations once again on your third place, and thank you for your time. That is Adam Alderton in the number 27. Podium finish for him tonight. We hear him not exactly happy with that contact, Dane, but it's just the way Rallycross goes. Contact can be friendly in one instance, and then you go just a little bit further with these cars, and it ends up leading to more contact. And I don't know, maybe we're not done seeing that yet this season.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always the thing with Rallycross that it's very tight technical circuits, and you're going sideways on dirt a lot of the time. Contact is inevitable. It just depends on what kind of contact. We saw a little bit too much here and there, but yeah, it's always going to happen. It's a part of Rallycross that is, technically speaking, a contact sport of such. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting second half of the season now that drivers have formed these sort of little rivalries and things. So I'm looking forward to how the drivers react to all of this.
And thankfully, we are halfway through with this season. We still have a lot of time left to go, and up next it is the Charlotte Motor Speedway and the Rallycross configuration, another relatively new configuration to iRacing Rallycross, Dane, but it has served as a championship deciding track in multiple seasons of the World Championship and at Racecraft Rallycross, but this time we're going to it in the middle portion of the calendar. A big change.
Yep, no longer going to be deciding a champion there, but instead just setting off the second half of the season, trying to get the drivers to maybe gain a little bit of momentum heading in towards the final few rounds of the championship. Always going to be an exciting round at Charlotte. It's easily my favorite Rallycross circuit, but yeah, it is just such a fantastic track. And I believe it's something like, is it 83% that we calculated for the World Championship that it's covered by dirt? It's almost entirely dirt. It's fantastic. I love it.
I believe it is up somewhere in the 80s, but it is the biggest, it is the most dirt that we see on any of the tracks in the calendar. And we hope that you'll join us same time, same place, August 21st, 4 p.m. Eastern time, right here on Racecraft TV. And that will do it for our coverage of Racecraft Rallycross. For everybody at Racecraft Rallycross and for everybody at Racecraft TV and for Dane Baird alongside, my name is Joshua Lee. We saw a lot of drama from virtual Barcelona. Where do we go when we go back stateside for Charlotte? Tune in to find out.